All right, so we left off reading chapter 4 of Miss Porter is Out of Order, and it kind of left us on like a cliffhanger. Like we were super excited to get us to chapter 5, and it is called Boys. Miss Porter was dancing around the room, singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and you'll never believe who walked into the door at that moment. Nobody. It would hurt if you walked into a door. I thought we went over that in chapter 2. But you'll never believe who walked into the doorway. It was our principal, Mr. Klutz. He has no hair at all. I mean, none. I think he used to have hair. Long time ago, though. But it all went down the bathtub drain. "Hello, Mr. Klutz," said Miss Porter. "What do we owe the pleasure of your company?" That's grown-up talk. That means, what are you doing here? "Oh," he replied, "I just wanted to drop in and see how you and the kids were making out." "Ugh, gross," we all shouted. I was walking by the door when I noticed that Miss Porter had generated a 3D image of itself, said Mr. Klutz. "Yes," Miss Porter said, "I feel that when the students can see me as a human form, it helps them relate to me as a real teacher." I noticed that a bunch of men had gathered in the doorway. Mr. Docker, the science teacher, Mr. Mackey, the reading specialist, Dr. Brad, the school counselor, Mr. Tony, the after-school program director, Officer Spence, our security guard, Mr. Harrison, the tech guy, Mr. Louie, the crossing guard, even Mr. Burke, the guy who mows the lawn. They were all here. They were all smiling and waving to Miss Porter. "Hello," Miss Porter replied. "If you'll excuse us, we really should start our lessons now." "Can I have your number?" asked Mr. Harrison. "Huh? What was a weird thing? That was so weird to ask." "I don't have a phone," replied Miss Porter. "I am not human." "Maybe we can have dinner sometime," asked Officer Spence. "I'm sorry," said Miss Porter, "but I do not eat food." "Will you go to the movies with me?" asked Mr. Burke. "You are asking me out on a date?" said Miss Porter. "Just ignore those guys," said Mr. Tony. He got down on one knee in front of Miss Porter. "Will you marry me?" "What?" "Are you crazy?" shouted Andrea. "Miss Porter isn't even a human being. It's a machine." "So what?" asked Mr. Tony. "It's beautiful, it's smart, it has a wonderful sense of humor, and a great personality. It has no problems. I want to spend the rest of my life with it." "But it's not real," Alexia shouted. "You can't marry a personal digital assistant." "I don't care," said Mr. Tony. "I love it. Marry me, Miss Porter. We'll be so happy together. Please, please, please." Mr. Tony looked at Miss Porter with puppy dog eyes. "I'm very flattered," said Miss Porter, "but that would be... Really, Miss Porter didn't have the chance to finish the sentence because Mr. Brad and Mr. Docker were on their knees now. "No, marry me," said Dr. Brad. "He's no good for you," said Mr. Docker. "Marry me." "I don't even know any of you," said Miss Porter. The men didn't seem to care that Miss Porter wasn't a human being. "Hey, I asked it to marry me first," shouted Mr. Tony. "Marry me, Miss Porter," shouted Mr. Louie. Then Mr. Klutz and Mr. Mackey got down on their knees and asked Miss Porter to marry them. The next thing we know, the men started pushing and shoving each other. Then they were wrestling on the floor. "I don't approve of the violence," said Andrea. "What do they have against violins?" I asked her. "Not violins, Arlo. Violence." There's all of them arguing. They're fighting over a digital assistant. There was nothing anybody could do to stop it. It looked like one of those battle royale wrestling matches when the ring is filled with guys. They were all yelling and screaming and shrieking and hooting and hollering and freaking out. Get your hand off my face. Ow, my foot. I love Miss Porter. No, I'm in love with Miss Porter. I love Miss Porter more than you do. Andrea rolled her eyes. Boys, she said. That was a very funny chapter. All right, stay tuned for us to read chapter 6 tomorrow. Bye, guys.